Hi, I'm Kimmy with On William Street, and we are here to help you become a more confident quilter, from the piecing to the quilting and everything in between. This week, we are going to learn a fun new free motion quilting motif. So each month, we're going to go over and we're going to teach you a new free motion quilting motif, something that you can practice and doodle and add to your repertoire to kind of increase the things that you feel comfortable doing. So we definitely recommend that you doodle it out, sketch it, and if you want to, go ahead and stitch it out. If you're looking for something to practice on, we're just going to be using little sandwiches. This is about a 12 by 11 inch sandwich. You can use solids if you want to see what you're doing really well, so you can see where you can improve. You can use scrap fabric. Scrap batting, this is a great opportunity to pull out all those scraps that you cut off at the end of your quilts, and we can use them for practice. So that's what we're going to be sewing on this year. So the first the motif that we're going to be working on is one that I really like to use in backgrounds. It's a lot of movement, a lot of flow, so it works really great in very large open space backgrounds, or it actually works really well as an all over design too. It's going to add a lot of movement to the overall quilt at the end. So for this design, this one really has kind of two parts. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a wave. And this is a very gentle wave. Don't try to make it too small. It's going to make it very hard to finish the design out later. After you put that wave in, we're going to come back and echo it the other direction. And then we're going to echo it one more time, a third time. Now at this point, if I have an empty space up here, if I'm trying to fill in a space, I would go up here and I would fill it in before I go too far. So I want to make sure not to leave that empty. But what we're going to do is after I put in this third one, I'm going to come down and I'm going to now make my curve go the opposite direction. And when I get to this side of the row, that's when I'm going to put in my fill. And I'm just going to do a wishbone. And you're just going to go big and small and just fill in that space. Something to keep in mind, I am going to leave a space between these lines because it's a lot easier to make a small wishbone than it is to make it come to a point and touch. So it's a little bit more forgiving. Then when I get to the end here, like I said, I would come up here, and that's where I would do my fill up on this side as well before I get too far down the quilt. And you could either do this so the ends at the top of the space, or make it go off. So it just looks like it goes off. If I was doing a full all over design, I would probably make it so it looks like it goes off the top. I wouldn't try to stop at the top of the quilt. Then we're going to come back here and we're going to go back the opposite direction and echo, and we're just going to do the same thing. 3 lines, 1, 2, 3, come down, do the opposite direction, and then do our fill in. And then just keep going until you filled in the full space. All right, so before we get started, I have my free motion quilting foot on. My feet dogs are dropped, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull the bottom thread up to the top. And this is just going to make it so that I can hold on to it and not have to worry about knots on the back. You know how sometimes when you start sewing, you'll get a knot on the back. By pulling it to the top, I can hang on to it a little bit, and that's going to make sure that I don't get any of those knots. So like I said, the first thing we're going to do is a nice gentle curve, and I do have my quilt turned so that I'm going down the quilt as opposed to trying to push it into the throat of my machine. So if I was doing this across, say horizontally across a quilt, I would turn it so that it's going straight up and down through here as opposed to dealing with bulk here. And we're also just going to take it slow, adjust your hands as needed. Take a few stitches to get started, hold that in place, and then we can go. I'm going to move these out of the way. This is a time you could also trim those so they're a lot shorter if they're in the way. Okay, now that my curve is done that direction, I'm just going to move this way a little bit. And it doesn't really matter what the spacing is between these lines, just keep it consistent. So if you want it about a 1/2 inch, just try to keep all of them about a 1/2 inch. I'm just using the edge of my foot to try to keep that roughly the same spot. Okay, and then we're going to do one more. Now at this point, we're gonna move over a couple of inches, probably about 3 to 4 inches, depending on the scale of your design. And then that's when we're gonna go the opposite direction. Then we're going to stop here and fill it in before we go any further. All right, now that we are to here, we're gonna go down and just do some more lines and continue on. Now that I've done this line, again, go ahead and just fill it in. So as you can see, I'm always ending at the top with the way that I've done this. So if you have one particular way that you do your wishbones or your fill a little bit better, you can make it so that you always end at that place. So wherever you start, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're gonna end at that same spot every single time. So if you want to go from the bottom up, just start at the bottom and then go back the other direction. If you want to go from the top down, then start at the top. There's one thing to keep in mind that might sound counterintuitive. If you're having a hard time getting smooth curves, actually try speeding up just a little bit. It's a little bit easier to make that smooth transition if you're going a little bit faster than if you're trying to do it very slow. So you can see we've got it go ahead and filled in, and if I was doing this on a full piece, I would work off the side. I don't have the space here on my practice sandwich, and I'm going to mess it up, but I would fill in these side sections as well. So grab some paper and first go ahead and doodle out the design, and then get your little practice sandwich and try stitching it out so that you feel confident when you're ready to put it on a quilt. And like I said, this design works really great to create a lot of texture. I've used it for like skies and for wind. It works really well for water. If you have a quilt that has, you know, a water theme or something, this one works really well for it. And it kind of invokes that motion and that movement, and it's really a lot of fun. So if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and then hit the bell and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook and sign up for our email newsletter, and you'll get access to our subscriber library full of fun projects. Plus, you'll get emailed each week about what video we are posting and about what we have going on so that you don't miss anything. And we will see you next week.